Hello everyone, it's Friday, August 19th. Let's talk PlayStation. Once again, a slow news week, but there are two specific items I'd like to talk with you this week. The one thing being the firmware update we were talking about, 4.0 presumably, that it was going to be beta testing. Well, people are beta testing it now, and Sony even officially showed off what we're actually getting in this firmware. So a number of good, interesting things are coming in this firmware. Some ones that we've really been looking forward to. The one notable one being folders. Folders are finally coming to PlayStation 4 and library organization as a whole. You can finally group your games in a specific order if you want, put them in a folder. All that's well and good. They're also doing trophy improvements. So the one thing with trophies is that on PS4, you can now view them offline, which is something you actually couldn't do before. Now you can turn it offline and you can view them without an internet connection. Excuse me. This one I find a little odd. I feel like we didn't really need this, but so now you can actually view hidden trophies. You don't they don't just show you right away, but basically you can select and purposely view the description of a hidden trophy now if you want to. And then they're also one little subtle change. They're changing the trophy icons for the trophy rarity. So instead of the 4 boxes for the trophy rarity, now it's like a little pyramid. The one notable thing I guess that you'll see immediately is that the UI is completely refreshed, just kind of giving it a new little facelift. So the changes aren't super noticeable, but it's very subtle. So obviously I'm just probably showing you screenshots right now as I'm talking about it, but you can see how it looks kind of different. The one thing that you can definitely notice is that certain menus are completely overhauled. They look they actually let you show, if you're in the middle of the game or something, it doesn't take up the entire screen now. This is the quick menu. So anytime you bring up the PlayStation button or something, when you press the PlayStation button, it only covers up a little bit of the screen, and you can actually still do what you need to do and actually still see your gameplay. Same thing with the share menu. It only covers a little bit of your screen, and it just gives you, it's retooled a little bit to give you a little more easier access and everything. The user profile has been updated slightly, so they gave that a nice little new look and brought the information a little bit closer to you, a little bit easier to compare trophy information in between people. Some of the other more subtle things that they found in the firmware update, you can do individual privacy settings for each game now, so you can set it per game if you don't want to show people that you're playing a specific title or something. That's kind of one of those little features where it's don't really know if a lot of people needed that, but now it's there. Live streaming now supports up to 60 frames per second. In your friends list, one little subtle change, instead of saying how many hours ago they were last online, that will actually show you a date of when they were last online. The notification box is apparently white now instead of black. I'm not actually in the beta, by the way, so this is basically, you're going to have to take my word for it and other people's word for it because they're in the beta. Notification bar is apparently different. Now it's white. I don't like this whatsoever. I think this looks actually pretty bad. It's one of those things where if you look at it side by side, it looks noticeably worse, because you look at the new white bar and it's and then you look at the current one and it's that the white one looks almost amateurish, you'd want to work your way to the UI improvement of the black one, but no, we're getting this white one apparently, which looks a little bit odd, but it's a beta program, so maybe this will be something that with Sony's feedback people will say, oh, this actually looks pretty bad, do not do this, and that'll won't make it into the final release or something. I would hope so. And then one other little thing, actually this is kind of a big thing, two-step verification for login is finally kind of slowly coming. Apparently it's only available right now to New Zealand and Australia, but it's a slow gradual rollout. So now two-step verification, a big security thing that a lot of people have been asking for on PSN. Now when you try to log in or something, you can set it so it can send you a text message with a verification code, a little PIN that you enter in, just to get a little extra added security for your PlayStation Network account. And I believe those are all the changes for the firmware update. I'm sure there's some other ones I'm probably missing. Oh, actually, you can order download lists now too, I believe. So when you're downloading games and something, you can actually set to which game, when one download finishes, you can set to what the next download is going to be, and so on and so forth. So, but it's it's a big, 4.0 is one of the big beta firmware releases. So there's probably a lot of other little features that probably are hidden just yet, and obviously when it has a full public release, there's probably going to even be a few more little tidbits that we don't know about quite yet. But good. A lot of things that we definitely needed, the folders was a big thing. UI refresh, I didn't actually expect that whatsoever, and in fact that's something that Sony doesn't do too often. Of course they obviously change, their interfaces in terms of like adding new features and stuff. But say if you're looking at, say, the PSP or PlayStation Vita or PlayStation 3, you know, those interfaces stay pretty stoic. Like the XMB pretty much stayed the same throughout the whole time on the PS3 and the PSP. They didn't change much of the Vita's little library screen. So yeah, and I guess that's a more progressive thing. I mean, in recent days with technology and, you know, like smartphones, for example, and the radical changes being made on operating systems for desktop, it seems like kind of a forward thing to like always give it like a nice little facelift every so often. So I guess Sony's finally looking at the PS4 UI in that sense as well. So they're kind of making it look a little bit different, a little bit fresh, something new to look at. Overall, seems pretty good. I think there's still a lot of other things that we could definitely use, and we always keep clamoring for, and we still don't seem to get. But you know, that's classic Sony for you. And I said that last week too. Classic Sony. There's a lot of things where it's classic Sony. They just don't seem to listen about some things, but they're getting better with it, admittedly. All right, there's only one other news story I'd like to talk about with you guys this week. It is from Microsoft's Eric Greenberg. He was recently in an interview with Engadget, and he had some interesting things he was talking about in regards to like Xbox Scorpio and whatnot. And I know, of course, this is another like Microsoft spin to the story, which annoys some people. But you know how we do it on this show. If it's talking, no matter who it's coming from, the quote or interview or whatever, if it's about the general gaming industry as a whole, we definitely like to talk about it on here, especially since Microsoft and Sony are doing practically the same damn thing, which is releasing Xbox Scorpio, PS4 Neo, which is mid-cycle refreshes. Okay, he had this quote to share with you that I'm going to share with you all. He said, "For us, we think the future is without console generations. We think that the ability to build a library, a community, to be able to iterate with the hardware, we're making a pretty big bet on that with Project Scorpio. We're basically saying, this isn't a new generation. Everything you have continues forward, and it works. We think of this as a family of devices." I'm not even going to spend too much time on this, because we've beaten this horse to death, but keeps reiterating kind of the same discussion. This is like basically this is what Sony and Microsoft's general idea was when doing Scorpio in PS4 or PS4 Neo. It wasn't this idea of like, let's make more money, blah blah blah, let's be anti-consumer and all this ridiculous nonsense. It's like kind of a step in the right direction, and it's in a sense actually very consumer friendly, because now all your purchased content is pretty much going to live completely onward, assuming you stay in that ecosystem, right? Like assuming you continue buying Xbox hardware for the next how many releases of an Xbox console, you have the confidence of knowing that your purchases are going to stay with you, that your games are going to be, you would assume that discs would be compatible for however long that discs are going to be relevant and going to be in print. And that's certainly the same case with Sony, which is the one baffling thing we always like to talk about here, which is like Sony and Microsoft both had this same fucking idea right during this console generation. You know, it's not one of the situations where Sony and Microsoft are talking to each other. They don't do that. This is like a conflicting statement that I made last week, like how they're, I said they're not really in competition with each other anymore. They're not really concerned with their numbers. But at the same time, they are still like competition. They're two console manufacturers. They don't necessarily just talk to each other and go, "Oh, you're doing that? Oh, cool. Maybe can we do it too?" Or like, how that shit doesn't necessarily work. These two multi-billion-dollar corporations both had this same idea in mind for this console generation because it makes the most sense. Just start releasing hardware slightly more frequently than the old generation of consoles, like the typical release schedule, right? Do them more frequently, but stick with the same architecture. Slightly increase the power, especially since we have diminishing returns now with new console generations. Like, PS3, PS4, 360 to Xbox One is diminishing returns. They're like PS4 and X1 are vastly more powerful systems than PS3 and 360. But quite frankly, the differences aren't that great compared to, say, PS1 to PS2, NES to SNES. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all like right there. You can see it for yourself. So when you have a situation where you're jumping from Xbox One to Xbox Scorpio, PS4 to PS4 Neo, you're going to get higher frame rates, higher resolutions, but you're not going to get these substantial groundbreaking, playgrounds where developers can make games that are drastically different. You're going to get basically what I just said: higher frame rates, higher resolutions. Some developers can get a little more ambitious and do more detailed graphical fidelity, maybe put more on-screen enemies on, do higher texture detail, something like that. But like those are diminishing returns. That's essentially what it is. It's not drastically different from how games were evolving over time through earlier console generations. So, and it just makes sense. You can confidently buy a PS4 game today whether on PSN or say disc. Maybe PSN would probably be the more safer bet, but you can confidently buy a PS4 game nowadays and know that in the next how many generations of PlayStation hardware that comes out, that is going to work, you know, and that especially in Sony's ecosystem that they're building, you know, now that who knows how far away PlayStation Now is going to look from now, say in 15 years or so. Maybe PS4 games will finally be added to that catalog, right? Assuming the service is still around and still doing well and still relevant, you know, maybe they'll allow you to access that title there. Maybe they'll allow you to, you know, download your, you know, previously purchased PS4 game on PS6 or on, say, supported Sony Bravia TVs. This is the long-term future, of course, and it's hard to talk about the long-term future, but that is kind of the idea that Aaron Greenberg is talking about here, at least in the respect of Microsoft. Of course, I don't necessarily know if Sony wants to do it on that grand of a scale, but at least with their consoles, that's what they want to do, and that's what Aaron Greenberg wants to do with Microsoft moving forward, and that's why they're kind of utilizing, you know, building a bridge between Xbox and PC, which is that, hey, you know, we've got this suite of devices, and now we're going to have multiple variations of Xbox consoles that are in varying degrees of power, and you can know that when you buy a game, you know, you can play it in, you know, pretty much anywhere, but it's also that thing where it's like keeping you in their ecosystem and everything. That's another twist to it as well, which is that they still want to keep you in your ecosystem, and that is another long-term benefit for Sony and Microsoft, which is that when you buy their games, you know that they're going to be working on their hardware for a very long time. I tried to I said I didn't want to spend too much time on it, and we're still taking way too much time on it, because, yeah, we've beat this horse to death like crazy. This horse is fucking dead. Those are some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. The Ryan Gaming topic was about LGBT characters in games. Why are there not that many? Stuff like that. That is like a topic we've been due for a very long time. Has a noticeable amount of dislikes on it, and tons of you guys are in there discussing and whatnot. And you know, there's some, you know, questionable comments and whatnot. But it's a topic that we're definitely due for. It's an important topic too. It's one that I feel very passionate about. I wish I could have done it more justice. I feel like there's somebody out there that could definitely like do a much better conversation about it than I can, but we finally did do that topic, and by all means I encourage you to go watch it, because like I said, it's an important topic, and it's one that we should have more conversations about, and one that we can hopefully move in a brighter, better direction. That's pretty much it. Resistance Let's Play still going strong. Don't have much news for you going on as of recently. I guess I will say this. I've just been super fucking busy the past about a month and a half, and that's kind of why I never got to the Uncharted 4 review. So I'm clarifying this based on the fact that if you've sent me a message somewhere, whether it's Twitter or PSN, I need to post back in the PS4 community. It's been like forever since I updated in there. Just know that I've been super fucking busy. So if you've sent me a message, I like to respond to most messages, especially comments too. I'm like pretty much dead in the comments now, and I know people sometimes mention that and whatnot. Just like all my free time, I either try to get out of the house, or I, you know, just barely, you know, try to get these videos done, right? Not that it's a chore or anything. I enjoy recording them, and I enjoy filming them, but you know, I work a lot, so when I, you know, come home from a long day of work, I either want to try and play like an hour of a video game or something, or just go to sleep. Or, you know, I got a girlfriend that, you know, she likes to spend time with me, so just, I sometimes like to get like 1 or 2 hours away from myself where I can finally sit in front of a computer and like respond to like a shitload of comments and messages and all that. So I'm just basically saying, if you hit me up, give me a little bit of time, I'll get to you. That's pretty much it. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Rob, and I can thank you all so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys next Friday.